mixed economy, chapter 11.
Okay.
Yep. So let's just go down. So when we talk about mixed economy is a combination of both the planned and the market economy. That means you are combining both the market and the planned economy. That means you are combining the economy that produces through individuals and group of individuals with the economy that produces through the public sector. So when you combine private sector and public sector together in an economy, we call it mixed economy.
Okay.
So before we go into what mixed economy is, what is an economy itself? An economy is a country. Yeah. So an economy, we could say an economy is a system that is trying or making attempts to solve the basic economic problems. It's a system that is trying to solve the basic economic problems. And what are the basic economic problems? The basic economic problems are what to produce, how to produce, whom to produce to, allocation of resources. So how do we allocate resources? It needs to be done by somebody. It needs to be done by an institution. So if government is taking charge of allocation of resources, we can rightly say it is a public, it is a planned economy. And if the economy is, if the individuals in an economy is taking charge of allocation of resources, we call that a free market or market economy. So, but if both governments and individuals in the economy are planning or are deciding on allocation of resources, we call it a mixed economy, which that is what we have today. Yeah. So I wrote, decision makers in an economy have to decide what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. That takes us to what mixed economy is about. So what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce to, has to be decided by specific people or specific institution. So that is where government takes place. And that's where we have private sector businesses. So private sector businesses, public sector businesses, they both come together or they both provide goods and services that will be consumed in an economy. I think that is clear.
Yes.
So we start with the private sector. Why do we call it private sector? We call it private sector because in this sector, organizations in this sector produces goods and services. And this production is done mainly by individuals or group of individuals. That is private sector. So the sector is controlled, owned by a group of individuals or individuals. I think that is clear. So what are the characteristics of such sector? The ownership and the aims. So who controls a private sector? Who owns a private sector? That is the question. Right. Private sectors are owned and controlled by individuals. Yes. So the kind of individuals that control a private sector will be determined by the legal status. The legal status. That means we have the sole trader, we have the partnership, and we have the companies. So if either of these things, they are controlled by individuals or group of individuals. So business owned or production by sole trader is part of the private sector. Production by partnership is part of private sector. Production by limited companies, which can be either private limited company or public limited company, it's still part of private sector. I think that is clear. Then the aims of private sectors. So for the private sectors, they could aim for survival. Why would they aim for survival? Survival could be as a result of you newly starting up your business. So a new business that is starting up, it takes time to understand customers. It takes time to understand the business environment. It takes time for customers to trust you. As a result, you might not be making profit immediately. So since you won't be making, or it's difficult to make profit immediately, you should think about gaining your ground, letting people to trust you, letting people to know you, surviving, being in existence. So you don't aim to quickly make profit, rather you aim to continue to be in the business, continue to be relevant in the industry. So that's an aim of a business, which is what survival. Then survival might not be only for businesses that are starting up. It could also be for existing businesses. Take care. So why existing businesses would think about aiming for survival? This could be as a result of economic downturn. If trading conditions are difficult, maybe during recession, during recession, income will be less. So a lot of people, income will fall. So a lot of people might even be out of job. As a result, purchasing power would reduce for people. So existing businesses might not even be making profit. So existing businesses can also think about survival, especially when there is trading difficulty. So they are not making profit. Things are not fine in the industry. The economy is in downturn. The economy is in decline. So how do you want to make profit? Do you understand? So existing business can also think about survival, same as newly businesses. For new businesses, they aim at survival because they are still new in the business. They are new in the industry. They don't know much of the customers. They still need to know more about customers. So for survival, like I said, existing businesses can also think about survival if the trading activity is difficult for them, maybe during recession. Same goes to new businesses. New businesses will think about survival because they are still new in the industry. They are still yet to understand the nitty-gritty about the industry, about customer behavior. So at that point in time, they don't aim at profit. They think about surviving. Then we go to the second aim, which is profit maximization. So for profit maximization, most of the people in business, their aim and objective is to make profit. So when you talk about profit maximization, it means you want to make as much as possible profit available at any point in time. So it could be an aim of any business.
In chapter 2.
Yes, we took it in chapter 2, yes. So the third one, growth. When I talk about growth, it's expansion. Some businesses might think about growth because when they are able to grow, they'll be able to enjoy economies of scale. And economies of scale means reduction in the average cost of production. So businesses might think about expanding their business, expanding their operations so that they can enjoy reduction in the average cost. Then we have social responsibility, which is another aim. Firms are socially responsible if they think more of stakeholders rather than shareholders. Do you get the point here? Yes. Social responsibility means you put into consideration, whenever you have to take decisions, you put into consideration all stakeholders, not only shareholders. Because if you are putting into consideration shareholders, it means you are thinking about profits. But here you are thinking about employees, you're thinking about customers, you're thinking about banks, you're thinking about government, you're thinking about the society, the environment at large. So this makes you to be socially responsible. This could be an aim of any business. Most of the time, businesses do not want to become socially responsible because it is expensive to be socially responsible. It is cost. It takes a huge amount of money. It takes a huge amount of money to be socially responsible. But pressure from government makes you to want to be socially responsible because if you are not, you might have to pay fine or you have to face different court issues or proceedings because of that. So these are the aims of private sector businesses. Any question about that? Yeah. Good. So we go to public sector now. Okay. So for public sector organizations, these organizations are owned and controlled by government. So here, resources, all allocation is done by government. Okay. So what are the aims of these? Examples of these organizations are central government departments like the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, the local government, schools, and the rest. These are examples. So they are just examples here. So we go to the aims now. For the aims, the public sector organization, their aims are as follows. One, improving the quality of service. Since the public sector, since the aim of government is to service the people, so they could aim to improve in terms of their operations so that the services they offer becomes a better one. Customers, a better service. Okay, in terms of education, they make education to become better. In terms of help, they make it to become better. That's what it means. I think it's clear. Yes. Minimizing costs. When I talk about minimizing costs, government, they don't have so much money. So their resources are less. As a result of that, they think